Essentially, authorities believe that they have a person of interest in connection to this shooting who they are questioning or hearing, and this is a separate person than the person that we saw detained in some video, a man who was inevitably booked for obstruction of justice, so unrelated to the shooting from what we're hearing at this hour. As we mentioned before we took this break, we are hearing so many reactions across the country, and that includes from young conservative groups. We've got Preston Hill joining us with UNC College Republicans. Preston, thank you so much for making some time for us tonight. Just wanted to kind of get your take. How are you feeling tonight? What is the dialogue happening right now amongst you and your organization members?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I would say we're all still pretty much in shock. We still don't know, how to process this. We're still keeping up with the updates, and it's only been a few hours to think about this. When I heard the news, I was on a bus on the way to my Wednesday class, and at that point, I had just read that he had been shot and was taken to the hospital. And so, I went to my next class, really not knowing what was going on. And so everybody was just kind of panicking, kind of, trying to gather information and figure out, is he okay? Did they get the shooter? People were just looking for answers. And so we were all just shocked and horrified at what happened. And I think regardless of politics, if you're a Republican, a Democrat, liberal, or a conservative, that we should condemn these acts of violence and against somebody who Charlie Kirk, this man, I'd met him before. He was, a father, a husband, and all he wanted to do was just to talk to people on campus and give them a platform, and just, engage in dialogue with people. And so, yeah, I want to give my thoughts and prayers to his family and all of the people who were there to witness that horrible event.
Now, Preston, you just mentioned that you had met him previously. Can you tell us about that encounter and when was that and where did that happen? And did he speak to you? Did you speak with him?
Sure, yeah. So he came to UNC Chapel Hill last October, right before the election, on one of his tours, and so because I'm involved in Turning Point USA, I was able to meet him beforehand, just talk to him, shake his hand, and actually get to meet this guy who has impacted the lives of millions of people. And so, yeah, he was just there doing one of his normal events. It was indoors, very similar to the type of event that he was doing today, where students were just coming up and talking to him, asking him questions, and engaging in dialogue. And yeah, so that was the last time that I saw him, and it was very just. I would say it was very humanizing to have actually, met this person, talked to this person, and then read what happened today. It was just heartbreaking.
Now, I mean, of course, we know that Mr. Kirk, with the platform that he had and how vocal he was on so many different topics, I mean, I feel like he sparked a big emotional response from folks, whether folks agreed or disagreed with whatever he was talking about. And I'm just kind of curious your take on, his impact on people. What was the allure of Charlie Kirk for you? Why was he such an important figure to you?
Well, he was an important figure to me because from when I got into politics, 5 or 6 years ago, he was one of the first people who I remember listening to, doing these kind of open mic, bring your questions and he'll answer them on the spot kind of encounters and debate platforms. That was something that drew myself and millions of other Gen Z individuals to him. And his impact on students, his impact on college campuses, it's felt all around the country. And even with what happened today, we want to carry on his legacy and make sure that all this work that he has put into this organization for the last decade carries on, and that his message is still spread across the country, and that we will make sure that we honor him in doing that.
As far as events or gatherings or, any opportunities that you and your group will be putting together, is there anything that's on the schedule yet? I know it's so early, but is there anything that you're planning as far as remembrances or honoring, or as you mentioned, efforts to try to carry out what he believed in?
Sure. I don't want to comment too much on that just because we've gotten some word from the Turning Point USA headquarters as to what to do with that. But Turning Point USA is not going away by any means. We're all mourning together over this tragic, heartbreaking loss that happened. But we're going to make sure that Turning Point USA is here to stay and to continue honoring and going with Charlie's legacy that he left behind.
Now, you alluded to this just a few moments ago, the fact that, whether folks are liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, whatever their political leanings are, this is something that folks are denouncing outright. And we've heard, folks in the political realm, both sides of the aisle weighing in today saying political violence has to stop. This is too much. I'm just, curious to hear your reflections as a young man, obviously an interest in politics coming up and seeing these headlines day after day. In some cases, we have headlines like this today. How are you feeling about the world, about the country right now, about the way things are going?
Yeah, well, after seeing what happened today, I hope that just for a minute we can, get beyond the political divide that is very obvious in our country and just, at least agree on condemning this kind of violence and acknowledging that this is not the answer to problems that people have with one another. Charlie was just somebody who, like I said, wanted to talk to people and give people a platform to ask questions and give good faith responses. And that's how he was able to just impact the lives of so many people. Was just by, not he's doing this unscripted. He's talking to everyday college students like myself. And so I would say that even in this time of a heartbreaking loss, I'm still hopeful for the country's future, and I'm hopeful that to see that we can still condemn these kinds of political violence like what took place today, and still unite as Americans.
I know there's still probably a lot for you and your colleagues in in UNC college Republicans to kind of process right now. But anything else that you'd like to leave our viewers with here on Live Impact News before we wrap things up, either about this specific instance or just the larger picture of what we're seeing as a nation?
Yeah, I would say that the goal, I would say, of something like this happening, it was specifically targeted toward Charlie Kirk and toward who he was and the message that he brought. This wasn't an accident. This was clearly targeted and meant to take him out and meant to discourage people. And after seeing that today, we are all obviously heartbroken and shocked at what happened. But at the same time, we're not going to let these kinds of political violence. We're not going to let it silence us. We're not going to go hiding into the shadows. We're not just going to pack things up and move on and take this give in to the demands of these perpetrators of political violence. Yeah, we're not going to be scared. We're not going to cave into the will of political violence like this. And so that's what I would say is just don't let acts of violence like this that are meant to silence movements, that are meant to instill fear, don't let them win. Keep going, and do to other conservatives out there, to other Americans, just honor, I would say to honor Charlie's legacy in what he did of just open dialogue and wanting to talk to people. I think that's something that people can acknowledge was a positive that he did across political aisles, regardless of whether you agreed with him or not. And so that's my message.
Preston Hill with UNC College Republicans, thank you so much for your time here on Live Impact News.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.